Okay, let me report on how the prototyping went. I built 4 prototypes and let me just show them to you in turn. So this is the first one. It's intended to approximate the push and twist, or the punch and twist concept. And what I did was to take a section of baseball bat. I cut off about 100 millimeters and I just smoothed the end a little bit so it wasn't rough with the utility knife. And then I took the tomato paste can and I simply cut out a profile that I thought would give me the right action. So the idea would be this portion here, you'd punch and then you'd rotate to sweep out the cylinder, and then my thinking was you could pry a little bit to remove the plug of ice cream. So it's held in place with two little screws here, just self-tapping screws, and I put in another screw and I just found a little plastic bushing that I had in my in the spare parts bin lying around, and I put a screw into the side of the bat, and that gives me something to push my thumb against when I turn it. Okay, so that's prototype 1. This was the easiest one. This probably took about 10 minutes to make, so really quick and easy, but I feel like it approximates pretty well what it is that we're trying to test with that concept. Okay, the second one, the idea here was that we could push into the, or probably more likely kind of thread into the ice cream the scoop, and then the idea was to be able to twist in order to carve out a ball, sweep a ball out of the ice cream, and then remove it. And the way I did this was I took the stainless steel OXO peeler and I cut it just about in half, which took some doing because this was a stainless steel, fairly heavy metal piece and fairly hard. I used a tool that I didn't show you initially. Basically, I used a hacksaw, but still a hand tool in order to be able to do that. And then what I did was I took the leading edge, at least for a clockwise rotation of the cutter, and I filed it in order to have a knife edge to it. So that actually is a sharp edge. So my thinking was this edge will maybe succeed in cutting out a ball if you twist it. And then the other thing I did was I just cut off the top also with the hacksaw, and I screwed in another piece of baseball bat to make a knob. So this was also not too harder than the first one, though. This might have taken half an hour, 45 minutes to make this one. All right, the third concept is the push and pivot concept, and the idea behind this scoop was that if you could start this at the top of set this on the top of the ice cream, and then could push downward, then it might carve out. So again, you started at the top of the ice cream, you push downward, and the idea was that it could carve out a ball, and that might ergonomically be pretty nice. Actually, I think we called this the swoop scoop, and the other idea on it was that you could put a tool on the handle that would allow you to get at the bits of ice cream left in the container. Now you'll see that I took lots of shortcuts here. I took an existing scoop, I just cut it off, and then I took a piece of wood and I scribed out on the side of the piece of wood the shape that I wanted it to have. I cut that out, and then I carved and smoothed the edges just to give it a little better feel, and then I put 2 screws in the side to hold I drilled a hole, and I'll admit that I used a power drill to drill that hole, although you could have done it by hand or figured out another approach. I did use a power drill to drill that hole, and then I put in 2 screws to hold it. And you know, if this idea proves promising, I'm sure we could figure out a way to make one where we could actually test the scoop part of this handle, but I didn't feel that that was essential in testing the basic idea, which is, can you use this thing to push down and carve out a ball of ice cream? All right, and the last of the 4 that we prototyped was this one. The idea was to put a beveled hinge in the scoop, and so that it could be used in this configuration, and then that you could rotate the handle in order to use it in a pull configuration. And just to show you that even professionals screw up all the time, this was definitely the hardest of the prototypes, and the main reason is that I got that bevel the wrong direction. So if you'll look carefully, after I'd carefully cut it and then I went to see how the pieces would fit together, what I'd realized I'd done was to create a push scoop, not a pull scoop. And so this would, you could use this to push a scoop of ice cream, but not to pull a scoop of ice cream. And I stared at this for quite a while before realizing that if I'd cut the angle, the bevel the other direction, that would have worked. So that caused me a major delay because I didn't have another ice cream scoop. So I had to wait till today, overnight, to get another one. And I did it again. This time I did it right. And so there's my pull scoop. It turns out to be a little bit tricky to get the hinge to work just right. So I would characterize this as something that will test the idea of whether you can pull to carve the ice cream, but the hinge doesn't work. I had to put in a second screw here to stabilize this joint so that I could pull on it hard enough to really test it. So these 4 are now ready to go, and they ranged from really easy, like a 10-minute job, to pretty hard. In this case, this was it took me over, it took a period over 2 days, probably a total of 2 or 3 hours to get this one right. I haven't tried any of them yet, so that's our next step.